This is the Gerry Callahan Show.
You know, there have been many tough days for Democrats in the media in the last 6-8 months. Obviously, June 27th was a bad day. That's when Joe Biden melted down on stage in the debate against Donald Trump, leading to the end of his candidacy. July 13th, they tried to kill Donald Trump. I'm not saying Democrats wanted him dead, but, wounded, knocked out of the race would have been good for them. They would have preferred that. Obviously, every time they tried to put Trump in jail and failed, those were tough days for Democrats and for the media. November 5th was obviously the worst day, the toughest day, when Donald Trump won with a mandate, won all 7 swing states, won the popular vote. But I will say this, it might not be number one, but yesterday, January 14th, was top 3 toughest days for Democrats and the media. Pete Hegseth led off for Donald Trump, and let's just say he was Ricky Henderson. He was a spectacular leadoff hitter. This was great because it was just Pete against Senate Democrats on the Armed Services Committee, and it was an absolute bloodbath. It was an absolute blowout. I had high hopes for Pete. I knew he was smart. I knew he was articulate. I knew he was poised and good under pressure. This went better than I expected. He did better than I had hoped. And it wasn't just the fact that Pete was young and energetic and, again, just really prepared and smart, but it was the pathetic, sad, sorry excuse for an opposition from the Democrats. These are your people. If you're a Democrat, these are your best. I can't believe that this is who they choose for the Senate Armed Services Committee. This is who they choose to try to be the bulwark to stop Donald Trump's guy from getting to the Pentagon. I just looked it up. Just a few of the Democrats on this committee. Jeanne Shaheen, 77. Hirono, 77. Liz Warren, 75. Jack Reed, 75. Dick Blumenthal, 78. And Angus King, that phony independent, 80. You send these tired, old, bitter, pathetic people to try and expose Pete Hegseth. And what did they do? They just embarrassed themselves one after another. I had high hopes that Liz Warren would stand out, would be the one we could focus on. And she was terrible, shrill and shrieky, but she wasn't the worst. I don't even think she was even close to the worst. These people just embarrassed themselves. They wanted to, and to me, they played right into Pete's hands, by the way. They wanted to talk about, women, why aren't women in combat? They want to talk about diversity in the military and climate change. They wanted to talk about all the nonsense which Trump has vowed to remove, to get out of the military, and Pete's the guy to do it. And he articulated that beautifully. They didn't lay a glove on him. They didn't fluster him. He didn't lose his cool. He didn't lose control. He didn't get emotional. He didn't cry. He didn't really get overly indignant with their nonsense. He just played along, and he looked like he could have done it all day. They called the fight after one session, one round of questions. I thought they would go to round 2. They didn't. I thought they might even go to day 2 because this is the scalp they wanted. This is the pelt they wanted to hang on the wall. They wanted to stop Pete Hegseth, and they thought they had the goods. They thought they had the material to get him the way they did with Kavanaugh, the way they did with other nominees. They had, the drinking and the personal life and the cheating on your wife. And he just took it, gave it back, handled it beautifully, and showed why he is such a great nominee. This is the guy Trump picked, and this is why. He is exactly what the Pentagon needs. Before we get to all the highlights, before we get to all the noise, I got to read this story because it didn't get any play yesterday. I saw it yesterday morning after the show. I saved it. I read it. I read it again this morning. And I'm like, why doesn't one of the Republicans read this? This is a story from the Daily Caller about the Department of Defense. And you know why Pete was nominated. He said it. I'm a change agent. I'm going to change things. I'm going to change the culture of the Defense Department, which has a budget of $850 billion. It's the single biggest organization in the world. And people say, you heard it from Democrats. You don't have the experience. You're not a manager. Reid said, there's no CEO, no company in the world that would hire you as CEO. It would never happen. How big was your staff at that veterans organization? And he said, oh, I don't know, 50, 100. Oh, you're not qualified. You know who they think is qualified? This fat slob, Lloyd Austin, who was confirmed 93-2. He got 93 votes to be confirmed as Secretary of Defense. He came from the board of directors of Raytheon, which made the Democrats say, oh, good. You're part of the military industrial complex. You come from a defense contractor. That's wonderful. You wouldn't want a guy who wasn't connected to the defense industry. Anyway, so Lloyd Austin, as we know, has had a disastrous term. Wars everywhere. The Afghan withdrawal recruiting has plummeted. Here's a story from yesterday that, again, got very little coverage. The Defense Department under Joe Biden spent more in September than in every previous month since 2008, with some funds being used for multi-million-dollar splurges on luxury items, according to an Open the Books report published yesterday. It goes to the number. They spent $79 billion in September, 1 month, with $33 billion spent within the last 5 days of the month. The Defense Department spent $33 billion in 5 days. Here's the best part. The DOD splurged $6.1 million on lobster tails in September, over $3 million more than it spent the same month the year before. I'll say it again. $6 million on lobster tails under this guy. I don't know what everyone else ate. That's what this guy had for lunch. Other luxury food purchases included $16.6 million on ribeye steak and $6 million on salmon. Here, it gets better. The department also ordered ice cream 79 times for a total of $113,230 and spent $117,000 on donuts. That's your Defense Department, which Pete Hegseth, according to the Democrats, is just not qualified to run. These are people who failed 7 audits. They spend money. They don't even know where it goes. They don't care. They're the Defense Department. They feel they're untouchable under this guy, this clown who went missing for a week. No one knew where he was. Maybe you should have checked Baskin Robbins. $113,000 on ice cream. It goes on and on, by the way. $5 million on Apple products, including the i30 iPhone 16 Pro Max, which are considered the luxury version of the iPhone 16 model. A whopping $211 million on furniture, and this is including $36,000 on footrests. On footrests. There's where your money's going. They spent, explain this to me, $1.2 million on musical instruments. Gee, Pete Hegseth is just not qualified to lead this organization.
That's how you take down terror, Gerry. A bunch of clarinet.
This bothers me. I know Republicans, conservatives are supposed to be, foursquare behind the Defense Department. I don't care. They waste more than any other agency, any other part of the government is wasted by these people, and they do it intentionally, deliberately. They know they're untouchable, so they could spend $117,000 on donuts. Why are we buying any freaking donuts for that bloated old fraud? Anyway, that should have, one of the Republicans should have brought that up. That is the Defense Department under Joe Biden. 5 days, $33 million. And we're not even at war. There were lots of highlights from Hegseth, but to me, one of the best was talking about generals now. We had 7 4-star generals in World War II. We have 44 now. You know how many generals and admirals we have now? 900 generals and admirals right now. And they're all sitting there at their desk right now, having a donut, looking forward to that ribeye at lunch and maybe a lobster tail at happy hour. That's the Defense Department under Hegseth. I mean, under Austin. It all changes under Hegseth. It all changes. I had my doubts because he's got his issues, but yesterday it was confirmed for me, and soon it will be confirmed for the world. This is the perfect choice. I want to play we do have a montage, a summary, just kind of a conglomeration of the highlights of the Democrats questioning Hegseth. This is perfect. If you missed it, here in about a 30-second nutshell is a summary of yesterday's hearing. Go ahead.
Yes or no, yes or no. Veterans organizations that will help our veterans get every damn thing that they deserve because they signed on the dotted line.
That is about what it sounded like. And here's what you had going on. You had the awfuls, the affluent white female liberals attacking a man on a mission. And he not only was ready for it, he had all the answers. He was built for it. Again, this was an out-of-the-box choice. When Trump made the choice, everybody was kind of shocked, including me. Fox weekend anchor, obviously a big advocate for veterans, was never a general, was never a CEO, was never in the defense industry. That's unusual. That's what makes it so great. That's why he is the perfect guy for this job. And from the beginning, from his opening statement, which gave me chills, to the end, to his closing statement, he couldn't have done any better. He couldn't have handled this any better. We got all the highlights, but you know what? Let's just start with that slob, that homeless bum, Tim Kaine. If you're wondering what Tim Kaine has been doing since he was Hillary's running mate, I think he's been living in a box under a bridge. He's only 66, and he looks like he's older than Chuck Grassley, but I think that's some hard living. And Dan Bongino right now is throwing out some rumors on Twitter about Tim Kaine. Interesting rumors. We'll get to that another time, but he went there. Yes, he went there. They grilled Pete Hegseth on the drinking and the womanizing. I knew it was coming. God knows they did it to Kavanaugh when it was totally made up. But I need you to keep one thing in mind before you listen to all these accusations. There's not one accusation on the record. Not one that is not anonymous. They are all anonymous. As we said before, NBC, and I was glad to hear Pete Hegseth call them out. NBC did the hit piece where they talked to dozens of people who worked with Hegseth at Fox and at these veterans organizations. Not only did they not have anyone on the record, they didn't even call the people closest to Hegseth. They didn't call Will Cain or Rachel Campos Duffy or the producers. They didn't even attempt to pretend to be fair and balanced and do real journalism. They didn't want to hear from anybody who supports Pete and would refute the claims of the anonymous. I think maybe not all of them, but most of them made up, completely made up. As we saw with Kavanaugh, as we've seen time and time again, Democrats in the media will stop at nothing. The New Yorker came out with a story yesterday where anonymous sources said Pete Hegseth drank 3 gin and tonics for breakfast. not even a first name, just anonymous source. They will stop at nothing. They will lie. That's what they're doing. They are lying about him. Did he drink? Yes. He admitted to his friend Will Cain on Will Cain's show that when he came back from war, he drank beer at lunchtime because he was coping. He was dealing with the pain. That's what lots of veterans do. Of course, most of the vets that were in the room support him. They probably all had their battles with alcohol, but he's doing okay now, as far as we can tell. And he's being grilled by a bunch of drunks, a bunch of womanizers, a bunch of really bad people, including this guy who looks half sauced right here during this questioning. I'm not saying he is, but, anonymous sources tell me he was drunk. And by the way, so was Mazie Hirono. We'll get to her, but let's listen to Tim Kaine. Oh, by the way, Tim Kaine, big fan of Bill Clinton, campaigned with, obviously, was the running mate of Hillary Clinton, who attacked, defamed, slandered any woman who accused Bill Clinton of sexual improprieties. This is a running mate, and also a big fan of Doug Emhoff. But let's listen to Tim Kaine. Go ahead.
Completely cleared. Can you so casually cheat on a second wife and cheat on the mother of a child that had been born 2 months before, and you tell us you are completely cleared?
Senator,
how is that a complete clear?
Senator, her child's name is Gwendolyn Hope Hegseth, and she's a child of God, and she's 7 years old.
And she was, and you cheated on the mother of that child less than 2 months after that daughter was born, didn't you?
Those were false charges. Well, no, fully investigated, and I was completely cleared. And
that was the answer. That was the answer he gave to everything, and he should have. He should say, if you have anything on the record, anybody put their name on it, I'll discuss it. If you want to come at me with anonymous charges, I'm not going to answer. I'm not going to play along. And by the way, if the woman, Jane Doe, didn't falsely accuse him of rape, no one would know about that affair, that moment, that day he cheated on his wife. Did he cheat on his wife? Yes, he did. He had consensual sex. She lied and said it was rape. They investigated, said there's no case here. And he was right. He's right. He was exonerated. Obviously, if he were guilty, he wouldn't be there. All right, let's go to Mazie, because there's some debate online. I've been making the case for our guy, Ed Markey, as the dumbest member of the Senate. She gives him his run for his money. She really does. She is an absolute moron. How old did I say this old woman is? Mazie Hirono, 77, and she's not getting any smarter. And she wants to go at Pete. They each had their little areas to attack Pete, and hers was on the drinking. I think Pete should have said, and again, he did a great job. He should have said, I was in war. I saw my friends die. I killed people. I was, as he says, in the most dangerous, darkest places. When I came home, like a lot of vets, I drank too much. Yes, those days are gone. I'm ready to go. I mean, people would be sympathetic to that, but he doesn't. Again, he doesn't want to indulge them, to play along, to placate them. And it worked great. It was a great strategy. But let's listen to this woman grilling a war hero about his drinking.
By enforcing the Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ, in addition to the sexual assault allegations, and by the way, the answer to my second question should have been yes. I have read multiple reports of your regularly being drunk at work, including by people who worked with you at Fox News. Do you know that being drunk at work is prohibited for service members under the UCMJ?
Senator, those
Yes
are
or no?
multiple false anonymous reports peddled by NBC
Do
News
you know that
run directly
drinking on the job
contradictory to the dozens of men and women at Fox News Channel who I work with,
I'm
who
not
came
hearing
on
the
the
answer to my
record
question.
and said they
In your
never
opening
seen
statement,
that.
Mr. Hegseth, you commit to holding leaders accountable at all levels. That includes you, of course.
I'm not hearing the answer to my question.
Again, people of Hawaii send this wretched woman to the Senate. This is one of their 2 senators. And again, I'm in a glass house here. We send Liz Warren and Ed Markey, these two clowns, to the Senate. Democrats aren't sending their best. Again, this was their big day. This is the one hearing people will focus the most on. Right now, there's a bunch more nominees going before the Senate. Pam Bondi's in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee right now. Nothing will be under the microscope like this. And what we saw was not only a great nominee, smart, poised, articulate, ready, prepared. We saw these pathetic, old, doddering, bitter women, mostly, not all, mostly old, angry white women. This is the core of the Democrat Party. And what are they concerned about? We don't have enough moms on the front lines getting killed. I mean, his idea that his opinion that women don't belong in combat, the answer to all the questions, they're demanding, why don't you want more women killed in combat? That should be the way he turns it around. I don't want women dying on the front lines. What civilized country wants moms? That was Kirsten Gillibrand. What do you have against moms? Well, I don't want them killed in combat, first of all. I don't think a civilized country who cares about families wants mothers with young children shot, killed on the front lines. Boy, that's crazy. And he just talks about standards. We've lowered standards. Of course we have. The physical standards for whatever, for Marines or Rangers, or SEALs, have to be lowered if you want real diversity. Obviously, Pete's right. They're wrong. We don't want to lower standards to weaken the military in the name of diversity. As he said over and over again, DEI out, climate change out, all this CRT nonsense out. He said it clearly, couldn't have been clearer. And that, I think, is what the American people, and I know what Donald Trump wants. Well, after all the questions about infidelity and drinking on the job, they turned to Mark Wayne Mullin, who is a veteran, I believe is a senator from Oklahoma, and he's close to Pete. He helped Pete prepare, huge Pete Hegseth supporter and another badass veteran. And I was hoping for this. I was praying for this. I said, don't get distracted here. Call out these hypocrites, these frauds, people like Tim Kaine, who campaigned with Doug Emhoff, who's a good friend of Bill Clinton, and he just doesn't like people who aren't loyal to their wives. Call out these frauds who just spent years or 6 months supporting Kamala Harris, railing against people drinking on the job. These are people who adore Nancy Pelosi, and they just have no tolerance for politicians who drink. Great job by Senator Mullin here. Let's watch.
Senator Kaine, or I guess I better use the senator from Virginia, starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? Have any of you guys asked them to step down and resign from their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it, because I know you have. And then how many senators do you know have got a divorce before cheating on their wives? Did you ask them to step down? No, but it's for show. You guys make sure you make a big show and point out the hypocrisy because the man's made a mistake. And you want to sit there and say that he's not qualified? Give me a joke. I mean, it is so ridiculous that you guys hold yourself as this higher standard and you forget you got a big plank in your eye. We've all made mistakes.
Great job there. That's exactly what I wanted. I want him to call out these hypocrites, these frauds. He should have mentioned Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Doug Emhoff, Kamala Harris, mentioned these people who, they have no problem with drinking and womanizing or philandering or even, assaulting. How about the guy who is real good friends with Doug Emhoff, who knocked up his nanny while married, cost him his marriage, and he's calling out Hegseth for cheating on his wife. God, maybe Hegseth should have called him out, thrown it back at him. All right, we got to get to Liz Warren. Everybody's waiting for Liz Warren. She did not disappoint. There were so many more highlights. And Again, it was a really bad day for Democrats yesterday when the bill went before the House to protect women and girls in sports. That's the name of the bill, Protect Women and Girls in Sports. And almost every Democrat, including the pathetic, spineless Seth Moulton, said, no, I would like to leave. I would like to allow boys in the girls' bathroom, boys in the girls' locker room, boys in girls' sports, where they will continue to run over Seth Moulton's daughters. He doesn't care. He is afraid of the trans mob, and he is just an embarrassment. We'll get to that and the latest on the fires too. But first,
Excuse me.
do you wake up in the morning with a sore jaw, headaches, or ringing in your ears from grinding and clenching your teeth at night? I've been through this. It's fairly common, and dentists charge $600 for a bruxism night guard. Many people are now discovering the Brux Night Guard. Unlike regular night guards that go all the way to the back of the teeth, Brux Night Guard only covers the front teeth. This unique design is what sets Brux Night Guard apart from all other guards. It only covers the front teeth, so the bite force is directed away from the back, where many people grind and clench to help reduce jaw pain and still protect the teeth. You mold it at home to the top and bottom teeth. And unlike other guards, it is made in America and uses 2 materials for added durability. Order a Brux Night Guard today and use the code MAX22 to get 10% off plus free shipping. Go to bruxnightguard.com and enter the code word MAX22. All right, Ironhead, get the Pauly market odds. Last night, the odds of Pete Hegseth's confirmation soared to 88%, which is amazing. We were sitting here 2 months ago, and he was in the teens. I think he was at like 12%.
Currently at 90%.
90%. That's incredible. What a performance. And you know what else is going to skyrocket? Recruiting. Recruiting is not just because Pete's a combat veteran and a big advocate of the troops and the veterans, because he represents a new generation. He's young. He's 44. All these 80-year-old, these fossils on the Armed Services Committee grilling him, and he's giving it right back. And you're saying, yes, this is the new face of the military. Unlike Lloyd Austin or Mark Milley. By the way, Lloyd Austin and Mark Milley together, you think they could knock off $6 million worth of lobster tails? I think they could. I think we have our culprit. It's changing. Things are changing. And today you're going to see a spike in recruiting. Today you're going to see people feel differently about the military, about joining the military, because as Hegseth said, among the many things he said, when you teach people, when you tell people, like Democrats do, like the media does, like academia does, that America's a terrible place, who's going to want to fight for it? You need people like Hegseth who tell you this is a great country worth fighting for, which he did for years. That's inspirational. Pete Hegseth was inspirational yesterday. That's what he was. He made you proud of the military, of the country, of the cause, of just the way of life. And then you had these bitter hens talking about, whatever, diversity. We need more diversity. And he's saying, no, we're not. It's not about diversity. He gave a great opening statement. I believe it's 11 minutes long. I recommend it. And a really good closing statement. We'll get to that. But let's get to Lizzie, because I knew Liz wouldn't let us down. Liz has been lying about Hegseth, saying he's been credibly accused of rape. It's a flat out lie. It's defamation. But she doesn't care. It's what she does is lie. Consider this. He was grilled by Dick Blumenthal, who lied for years about serving in Vietnam. He didn't serve in Vietnam. He served in the United States on the parks, like a park and recreation assignment during Vietnam. And he said he fought in Vietnam. He's a liar. He stole valor. And he's grilling this guy about his integrity. Now we have Liz Warren, who has lied her entire career, who owes her career to one big fat lie. She said she was an American Indian, said she was Cherokee. It was a lie. It remains a lie. She wouldn't have been hired by Harvard. She wouldn't have been chosen by the Boston Globe to run for the Senate. She wouldn't be in the Senate if she didn't lie, if she didn't steal a place from a real minority, a real Native American. So she's going to attack Pete. Now, I don't think Pete handled this perfectly, unlike most of the exchanges, but God, does she sound like a shrill, shrieky, old, bitter woman. Let's watch.
But the question I have for you on this is, will you put your money where your mouth is and agree that when you leave this job, you will not work for the defense industry for 10 years?
Senator, it's not even a question I've thought about because
You can
it's
think
not
about it
one
right
that,
now.
it's not one, my motivation for this job.
I understand
has never
that. I
been
just
about
need
what
a
could
yes or no
conceivably
here.
come next.
Time is short. I just need a yes or no.
I would consult with the president about what the policy should be
In
at the Defense
other
Department.
words, you're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. You're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
You'll be the one, let us just be clear, in charge of the generals. So you're saying
It was a good response, got a good laugh, laughing at you, Liz. But why didn't Pete just say, I agree, I'm not going to work for the defense industry? Even if he did, so what? If he lied, he's talking to the biggest liar in the world. He's talking to these frauds. Why did he just say, all right, I won't work for the defense industry? When he's done as defense secretary, he'll probably go back in TV and make millions anyway. But here's why he didn't agree to go along with that. And by the way, she voted to confirm Lloyd Austin, who came directly from Raytheon. I believe he needed a waiver to come directly from Raytheon to the Defense Department. But here's why he didn't play along or agree to her suggestion that he never worked for the defense industry, because in his mind, he was not going to agree with anything. I'm not playing along with you people when you accuse me of anything. I'm just not going to give an inch. That's why he didn't do that, why he wouldn't agree to not work for the defense industry. But he won. Pete Hegseth won. Joni Ernst, Republican, veteran, who had her doubts about him because she's big defense. She is owned by the defense industry, the defense contractors. She was skeptical 2 months ago. She announced yesterday she's voting yes. So I think he's in. By the way, Susan Collins, who was still a question, she was accused by New Yorker yesterday of being offered a chance to sit down and interview the anonymous Jane Doe who accused Pete of rape, and she turned it down. She said, New Yorker said she didn't want to meet with the woman. She immediately tweets out, that's a lie. Nobody offered me a meeting with Jane Doe. They must have been begging Jane Doe, begging her, offering her anything to come out and go public. And she did not. They must have been just pleading with her, please. We need our own Christy Blasey Ford. And the woman obviously was lying about Pete. So she said no. And so that blew up in the faces of the Democrats, just like everything else blew up in their faces yesterday, which is a great thing, a great thing. Can we play Pete's final answer when he was asked by Rick Scott, of why he wants to do this? Why do you want to do this? And obviously it's a softball, but this was the last 30 seconds of the hearing, and it was perfect. Go ahead.
I wanted to do this job. What drives you?
You have 30 seconds.
Because I love my country, Senator, and I've dedicated my life to the warfighters. People see me as someone who hosts a morning show on television. But people that really know me know where my heart's at. It's with the guys in this audience who've had my back, and I've had theirs. We've been in some of the darkest and most difficult places you can ever be in. You come back a different person. And only by the grace of God am I here before you today. I'm doing this job for them, for all of them.
Thank you, Mr. Hegseth.
I love that. I mean, I think he means it. I mean, he means it. That is sincere. He has dedicated his life to working for veterans and soldiers, and his comrades in arms, and now he gets to be Secretary of Defense, department, the Pentagon, which employs like 3 million people, and he's going to be in charge. He is going to be confirmed, maybe even Monday, Inauguration Day. Pete Hegseth takes over the Pentagon. That is the best example of a disruptor going in there to a change agent, going there and saying, no more business as usual, no more lobster tails, no more ice cream sundaes. We are here to fight and win wars, or fight or avoid wars. No more of this, no more DEI. As he said, he doesn't want the Secretary of the Navy concerned with climate change. He doesn't want electric tanks in the Army. All that's over. 4 years of that nonsense, and it ends Monday or as soon as he gets confirmed. It could not have gone any better. Congratulations to Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. That's how you must refer to him soon, Lizzie and Maisie. That is your SecDef. Lloyd Austin's gone. He's got to pay. He's got to pay for his own lobster tails now, and Pete Hegseth is in charge. Perfect. It was perfect. Anyway, all right, we got so much more to get to. We got to get to this Protect Women and Girls Act. Once again, a terrible day if you're a Democrat. If you're a Democrat who's not like insane, you're a Democrat who's not AOC or Ayanna Pressley insane, a bad day because your party voted overwhelmingly to allow men in girls' bathrooms, girls' sports. Yes, 75 to 80% of the public is against this. They don't want men in girls' sports. They don't want boys in girls' locker rooms. And you just said, wherewith the tiny majority that wants to indulge these confused young men who are pretending to be girls. We'll get to that and tell you how Seth Moulton, that profile in courage, the guy who was a month ago ready to protect his daughters against these creeps. We'll tell you how Seth voted. Seth, by the way, a combat veteran, a Marine. He wasn't afraid to kick in doors in Fallujah, but he's afraid of the trans mob. How pathetic. We'll get to that and more, but first.
Excuse me.
Are you looking to cut costs and improve your business's bottom line? The best business operators have turned to Ramp to help them stop wasteful spending and improve their finance operations. Ramp is the corporate card and spend management software designed to help you save time and put money back in your pocket. With Ramp, spend policies are built into the card so you can prevent wasteful spending before it happens. You can customize spending limits and restrictions so employees are empowered to purchase what your business needs, and you have peace of mind. Ramp plays bad cop so you don't have to. Detecting policy violations, chasing missing documentation, requesting repayment, and locking down cards of non-compliant employees. Ramp helps you manage all your finance operations in one place. Card expenses, reimbursements, vendor payments, accounting automation, and a whole lot more. So you can see all your business spending in one place. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/Gerry. Ramp.com/Gerry. That's RAMP.com/Gerry. Card issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Terms and conditions apply. Get $250 when you join Ramp. Go to ramp.com/Gerry. One last thought on Pete Hegseth, because I can't tell you how well this went, how happy I was. Think of how insane, how much things have changed for the better in this country. 4 years ago, Monday, 4 years ago, January 20th, 2021, Pete Hegseth was in the National Guard. Pete Hegseth was an officer in the National Guard. He volunteered to serve on security for the inauguration of Joe Biden. He said, yeah, I'm in. I'll protect the Capitol. He was flagged as an extremist by someone in his own unit and banned, forbidden from serving as security for the president, the new president, at the inauguration. Why? Because he has a Christian tattoo on his chest. That's what they said. He was not allowed to serve as security on that day, one of thousands, because of a Christian tattoo. He's flagged as a right-wing extremist and told, hit the road. That same guy, 4 years later, is going to be Secretary of Defense. It is amazing how things have changed for the better, and they're changing at warp speed. And it's just so encouraging for all good and decent Americans. We're done. We're done with this madness of the last 4 years, this madness of the military emphasizing, diversity, kicking out able-bodied, healthy young men, kicking them out of the Navy SEALs because they refused the experimental vax. By the way, Pete pointed out, they're all going to be reinstated with back pay. That's a good thing. We have a recruiting crisis, and the fools in charge kicked out healthy young men who had no reason to take the vax because they wouldn't take the Fauci vax. And they're going to be back, and the country's coming back. And this is just another indication of how the earth is shifting. The tide is turning. The pendulum is swinging. It's yesterday. And by the way, the Congress is starting off on the right note. We had the Lake and Riley Act last week, which was supported by a number of Democrats and will pass, which means illegal aliens who commit crimes are getting the boot the hell out of here, which means the arsonists, one of the arsonists in LA, the guy who was caught with the blowtorch, his rap sheet is a mile long. He's an illegal alien who's committed dozens of crimes, and he's still here. We'll get to that, but I want to do this. This is from The Blaze. Nearly every House Democrat voted to block the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act Tuesday. Despite the overwhelming opposition from Democrats, the bill passed the House with Republican support. The landmark legislation amends Title IX so the protections are recognized based on sex rather than gender identity. The bill was brought forward to confront the increasing concerns surrounding male athletes who identify as transgender and compete in women's sports. There are the numbers. The bill passed with support of 216 Republicans, that's all of them, and 2 Democrats, Henry Cuellar and Vicente Gonzalez, both of Texas. In other words, not one Democrat, female Democrat, not one woman in the Democrat Party, not one voted to support, to defend, to protect women and girls in sports. Not one, including Seth Moulton, by the way, who is just such a pathetic, such a squish. He said he didn't want to see his daughters get run over by boys in sports, which led to a push, an effort by Democrats to kick him out of the party, to remove him from office. And what did he do? He bowed down to these same lunatics. He voted to leave the boys who are running over his daughters, to allow that to continue. That's your Democrat Party. These are the sheep, the pathetic sheep that don't dare step out of line. You should be ashamed of yourself, Seth Moulton. You're a freaking Marine, a combat veteran. You went toe-to-toe with friggin' ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and now you won't stand up to the trans mob, this small fringe band of lunatics? You won't stand up to the Boston Globe? I mean, I don't want to call him a coward. He's not a coward. He's a veteran, but God, is he a pathetic? He is just, it is just embarrassing that he won't even vote to keep boys out of his daughter's bathroom, his daughter's locker room. This is so out of step with the American people. It's great because it shows just how far left the Democrat Party has gone, just how they have lost their way. This is why they lost. To me, this is the number one reason. I mean, the best ad of all was Kamala Harris saying she wanted to pay taxpayers to pay for sex change surgeries for prisoners and illegal aliens. That was brilliant. And this is something that the average American looks at and says, what? You want boys to continue to take trophies and scholarships and roster spots from girls? You want that? And who's their spokesperson? Who's the voice of the Democrat Party these days? Who else? AOC. She took to the floor and went on an insane rant. It's long and she's so stupid. She's so dumb. She might run for president. God, I hope she does.
She definitely will someday, for sure.
She's one of those people who thinks she's smart. Who thinks she's making, a really good case. And their whole argument was, this is going to force schools to check the genitals of kids. Let me see if you have an innie or an outie. She doesn't seem to understand what a birth certificate is for. I mean, when you sign up for sports, when you're 6 years old and you sign up for whatever, T-ball, they look at your birth certificate. That's all they have to do. That's it. Are you a boy or a girl? But no, she thinks they're going to say, drop trow. I need to see what you have, even if they have to do that. So what? We don't want boys beating up girls. We don't want boys hurting girls. Well, most people don't. Democrats do. Let's listen to this nut.
Voted consistently against the Violence Against Women Act, who have taken away the right of all women to choose and have control over their own body, who, as women are bleeding out in parking lots across the country, standing there, allowing us to die, now want to pretend today that they care about women. And why? To open up gender and, yes, genital examinations into little girls in this country in the so-called name of attacking trans girls. And to that, today, what we have to say are two words: not today. The majority right now says there's no place in this bill that says it opens up for genital examinations. Well, here's the thing. There's no enforcement mechanism in this bill. And when there is no enforcement mechanism, you open the door to every enforcement mechanism. Trans girls are girls.
No.
And for all the folks that are so concerned, thank you for your concern about women for the first time that I've seen. I don't know about y'all. I don't know who's been to gym class lately, but girls, even if you only believe in two genders, I've played co-ed sports all the time. But what this also opens the door for is for women to try to perform a very specific kind of femininity for the very kind of men who are drafting this bill, and to open up questioning of who is a woman because of how we look, how we present ourselves, and yes, what we choose to do with our bodies. I know who loves this bill. Yes, bigoted folks love this bill. Assaulters love this bill. But also, CEOs love this bill because Los Angeles is on fire right now.
That's the face of the Democrat Party right there. Assaulters love this bill. You know what? You don't need an enforcement mechanism. We know who the boys are and the girls are. Does anyone need to check Leah Thomas's genitals to know Leah Thomas is a boy? He was on the men's team.
Well, if you're around Leah Thomas long enough, they'll show him to you.
That's true. Yeah, the girls in the locker room, the 18-year-old kids, females in the locker room, they didn't have to check his genitals. He showed them off. That was his thing. That was his fetish. He liked to walk around naked and throw it in their face literally and say, you can't stop me. I got the NCAA, Charlie Baker, another coward. I got the Democrat Party behind me. You can't stop me. I'm going to kick your ass, and there's nothing you can do about it. That ends next week, thankfully. If it passes the Senate, it had better. God, there can't be a single Republican who supports men in women's sports. I love this.
She's wearing baggy clothes again, by the way.
Keep pushing. Keep pushing these bills, exposing these frauds. All right, speaking of frauds, quick update on the, we'll get to Joe. Quick update on the fires because it ain't working. Jimmy Kimmel, I'm sorry. Democrats, Joy Reid, who says Republicans are trying to take over California with fire. With fire. They want to burn it down so they can take it over. Joy, there's no Republicans in California. They don't exist. Anyway, Michael Schellenberger, the really good reporter, has a report. More negligence, criminal negligence on the part of Karen Bass and all the liberals in California. There were 100 fire trucks in the shop, still now, 100 fire trucks in the shop for repair when these fires hit. The National Weather Service gave a warning that there were that the conditions were right for wildfires on January 2nd. On January 3rd, Mayor Karen Bass left for Ghana. She knew this was coming, and she left for Ghana. They're seeing more and more examples of how left-wing liberal policies led to this disaster, and people are opening their eyes. The owner of the LA Times did something I've never seen before. He said that their endorsement of Karen Bass was a mistake. They regret it. They should not have endorsed this sad, sorry excuse for a mayor. People are waking up, and it's great to see. Does that mean that they're suddenly going to go turn red and become Alabama? No, but they will attempt to recall Newsom again. They will attempt to recall Karen Bass, and they should. This wouldn't have happened with good leadership. They didn't prepare. They didn't clear the brush. They didn't fill the reservoirs, and they didn't have enough firefighters ready to go. They spent a fortune on stupid things, lots of stupid things in California, not on the fire department. They were not ready. They didn't have water. They didn't take measures. They didn't have controlled burns. They didn't clear the brush. That's on Newsom. That's on Karen Bass. As Trump pointed out, he posted on Truth Social, think of this. While these fires were burning, they had a special session of the legislature in California to Trump-proof the state. One of the things they want to do is protect illegal aliens from deportation. You know, if we had deportations a month ago, 6 months ago, one of the arsonists, the guy with the blowtorch, would have been gone. So they want to spend taxpayers' money, $50 million, to protect people, including one of the guys who set the fires. That's how crazy things are in California. All right, before we go, Joe Biden will deliver a farewell address at 8 p.m. tonight. Politico calls it an Irish goodbye. Politico doesn't know what an Irish goodbye is. An Irish goodbye is when you leave without saying goodbye. When you're at a party and you sneak out. That's an Irish goodbye. This is not an Irish goodbye. This is a pathetic, doddering old fool who's going to stammer through one final public statement. But yesterday, he was supposed to sign a bill. I think it was about national monuments. The guy who's been president for almost 4 years doesn't know how to sign a bill. That's where we're at right now. We can't get to January 20th at 12:01 soon enough. He hasn't been fit to serve for years. He's been a cognitive mess for years, and he is staggering to the finish line. Watch this.
Establishment of the Highlands National Monument. Here we go. Got to fill this in. I know, Santino, I'm trying, the day of, in this hand, you'll fill in the dates here, guys? All right. I know that, but I don't want to.
He struggles to sign his name. That is the president for 5 more days. 5 more days. God, it's hard to believe. He's been in office for 4 years, and we made it. Almost. We made it. 5 more days. Hopefully, we won't have nuclear war or any other disasters for the next 5 days. And then it's all over. Finally. And at last, it's over. Looking forward to that tonight. One last speech from this man. He will be stammering and he probably won't take any questions. He'll never be asked about the laptop. He'll never be asked about family influence peddling schemes, all the scandals. He will slink out the door, and we will be done with this utter disaster of our 46th president. All right, we will leave it there for today. Thanks to everyone for watching and listening. Don't forget to subscribe. Go to Apple, go to Spotify, give us a follow. We appreciate it. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is The Callahan Show, and we will do it again tomorrow.
Yes, our veterans organizations that will help our veterans get every damn thing that they deserve because they